First of all, I would like to thank TutorialsLink for giving me this chance to share my knowledge with all of you. So yeah, my name is Shibam Dhar, and today we will talk about React, more like React.Js, and why like people wants to learn React and what are the scopes about React. So basically, when we start as a web developer, we start from HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Then everyone thinks about that. Okay, now we have to do something more. So at that time, I chose React. But there are other options also. So I will tell you that why React, and I will make sure that at the end of this session, you will be confident about like you will know about like if you want to choose React, then how it will benefit you and what are the advantages. And of course, that it will be more like fun that to learn about it and to know more about it. So talking about React, it is a product of, you can say, Facebook in a way, and it is of course an open source. So we'll talk about if it's an open source, then what are the benefits. We'll talk about the React is a job-oriented language, or you can say a framework, and why is that so? Because there are huge production of websites which are going on React. But the main things, like you must have heard about Airbnb, the Facebook itself, and then there comes Netflix. They all are developed on React. So I've prepared a slide or PPT for you all. Let me just share my screen. Okay. So hello. Yeah. So we will start with what is React. So React is an open source front-end JavaScript library for building user interfaces or UI components. It is maintained by Facebook and a community of individual developers and companies. React can be used as a base in the development of single page or mobile application. So what is the main meaning of this thing? The meaning is that if you are a web developer, you are working with JavaScript. So giving it a little bit a much more developer oriented surrounding, you say, the React is introduced. And what is it? It is an open source library for building user interfaces. Now, when I talk about user interfaces, it is like the same way when you go to Netflix, whatever you see there, this whole thing is your user interface. And the word open source here is like, it means, of course, most of you know what open source means, but what is the advantage of this open source? The advantage is it is written, it is maintained by a Facebook and a community of individual developer and companies. What it means, when this is an open source, there are hundreds and thousands of developers who are working on it and making it better and better every day. So this is the most beneficial thing about React. Now, on the right-hand side, I have written that React.Js is an open source JavaScript library. Okay, this is used for building user interfaces specifically for single page application. Now, when I talk about single page application, you have to understand that let's say you are making a project on the basis of HTML, CSS, and React, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So what you do? You made a home page, fine. Now there is a let's say documentary page, there is a article page, then you again created an article.html, then you created a document.html, and then you link the whole into index.html, right? But when you are working on React, there is a single page which is associated, or you can say connected to all the other components or all the other pages, which means that there will be only single index.html, and through that single index.html you can access more than, like, you can access as many pages as you want. So how that will happen, I will explain you. So it is used for handling the view layer for web and mobile apps. Yes, so React, we have React.js for web application, we have React for React Native for mobile applications. Now, moving on, why React.js? Now the question is that, okay, fine, the React is like this and that, but why should I actually learn this, right? So first is easy and fast learning. React is a very simple and lightweight library that only deals with the view layer. Any JavaScript developer can understand the basics and start developing an awesome web application after only a couple of days reading tutorial. So what I want to convey through this particular line is that if you are, let's say, if you are habituated or if you are familiar with JavaScript, you can easily understand. If I give you a code of React, you can easily understand that what is happening. Like, okay, fine, there is a event handler is there is a JavaScript element is there is this rendering is happening. So everything is, you can say you will understand from the beginning, not everything, but you will understand many things. So this is the like first and most important thing why you should go for React. Easy and fast learning. Next is high speed rendering with virtual DOM. Now about virtual DOM, I will explain in details in later slides. Right now, let me read it to you. The React basically allows developer to utilize individual parts of their application on a both client side and server side, which ultimately boosts the speed of development process. React does what? Any view changes are first reflected to virtual DOM and then efficiently differentiate different algorithm compares the previous and current state of the virtual DOM and calculates the best way to apply these changes. Now, if I want to explain you like what is happening here, let me tell you. Let's say you have 10 cars, right? Now you have to paint those 10 cars. So let's say you were given an order like okay, paint all of them red. So what you did, you got the cars, then you painted all the cars, right? And they all are red now. Now again an order is given to you that out of these 10 cars, only one should be yellow. So now you are not familiar with virtual DOM. So what will you do? You will get another 10 sets of car, and this time you will color 9 of them as red and then one as yellow. Then again an order will be given, then you will get again new sets of car. So this is not a proper way of showing the things. Like this is not a proper way of handling things. So what this the virtual DOM do? So what the virtual DOM does that you got the 10 cars. What it will do? He will say that okay, now these 10 cars I will create a copy. So there is a 10 cars original and there is a copy of 10 cars. So here you painted all of them as red. The copy will tell the original side that yes, 10 of them are colored. Now if I give you an order that out of these 10 cars I want 2 of them as red or one as blue, what you will do? You will tell the virtual DOM that okay, make another copy. So what it will do, it will not get new sets of cars, it will just make changes on that copy, that those 10 copies whichever the virtual DOM made, the changes will occur there. So in that way, what happens that once the changes happened on the copy section, it will automatically render on the main page. So this creates this obviously creates less this makes the things faster, and this is the main function of React.Js, which makes it very much easy to use and efficient to load any screen. Next we talk about is flexibility. So compared to other front-end frameworks, the React code is easier to maintain and is flexible due to its modular structure. This flexibility in turn saves huge amount of time and cost to business. So as the line suggests that yes, whatever you do in React.js, whatever code you do, it is all in a modular structure. Like let's say you have index.html, then you create components, then you create let's say the API section, and everything is in you can divide into different sections, and which makes it flexible. Next is reusability of components. So let me read it to you. React provides a component-based structure. I want you all to understand this particular word or give emphasis on this particular word, component-based. which means that whatever you make, whether it is a button or a segment of your application, you can use it again and again. Each component decides how it should be rendered. Each component has its own internal logic. This approach has some amazing results. You can reuse components anywhere you need. So what I mean by that, let's say you are creating you are creating an application, and in that application there are navbar, there is a navbar, there are buttons, and there is a section of footbar, let's say. Now, in that particular application, there are 4 to 5 pages. Now, in each page, you want the the navbar and the footbar to be visible, and those buttons you want in those out of 4 pages, you want those button in 2 pages in 4 different sections. So what will you do? In a general way, what we do in HTML CSS, in a very general way, what we do is that we write the same code again and again. We may copy and paste, but we still do write. But is it a right way? I mean, yes, it is. You can see the changes, but it creates, the heaviness of the code. It creates its heavy. The rendering time gets more. But in React, what happens? Let's say you create a component which says button, and each time, whenever you want to put that component in your web page or in your application, that button will get displayed, and you don't have to write the code again and again. Lastly, the main important point, which is great developer tools. As I mentioned earlier, that it is an open source, and with open source, you get awesome developer tools, which means that whatever you are doing, let's say you are stuck between handling states, you are stuck between what are the true values coming from API, everything can be detected, or everything can be scrutinized with the help of developer tools, which I will tell you in a moment, which you can use while developing on React.Js. Moving on, important plugins and tools. So these are few tools which I use in React. There is React Developer Tool, then Redux Developer Tool, ES7 React, Redux GraphQL, React Native Snippets, Prettier. If you are working with HTML, CSS, the last two you must be familiar. Still, also let me say the Prettier, what it does, it formats the code, it makes it looks beautiful. ES7 React Snippets helps you to generate some useful snippets in quickly. Fine. And Redux Developer Tool, React Developer Tool, it helps in a way that, let's say you are working with a state, you are working with something, let's say sending of creating an storage, you are creating and store, you are getting something from APIs, everything can be handled, or you want to see what is happening. If I give you a quick example, if you're working with JavaScript, to check what a normal developer does, he puts console.log, right? With the help of console.log, he checks that whether this thing is rendering or not, whether this thing is coming or not, whether the request I've sent to API, is it coming back or not. But with the help of React Developer Tool or Redux Developer Tool, you will be able to check everything which you do generally with the help of console.log. Next, I will explain basic things to know about React.js. Now, React is a vast thing. From very small thing like creating a small component to, let's say, working with Redux tools and working with other libraries, working with templates, there is many things. So in this slide, I will try to cover most of the basic things which you should know if you are diving into React.js. So first of all, we'll talk about React JavaScript XML. So JSX, it is also known as JSX. So what is JSX? I will read it to you, but let me first read it to you. Basically allows you to write HTML in React. Example, there is a small example. It is written const element equals to h1 tag hello world, h1 tag closed. So what is it? Is it a HTML? No, because there is a const element which we don't use in HTML. So is it a string in JavaScript? No, it is not a string because there is h1 tag without any brackets or without any columns or yeah. So what is it? it is JSX. So instead of artificially separating technologies by putting markup and logic in separate files, React does what? React separates the concern with loosely coupled units called components that contains both. So this thing, const element, h1 tag hello world. In React, it means that there is an element, there is a constant named element, which is having a h1 tag, a heading tag written hello world. So what happens if you render this element tag in the website, you will see that hello world is being displayed. React doesn't require using JSS. Yes, of course, it is not mandatory that you must use React JSS. You can just put it as a normal elemental base without using any JavaScript XML. But most people find it helpful as a visual aid when working with UI inside the JavaScript code. So as I told earlier, nobody starts directly from React. You go from HTML, then CSS, then JavaScript. So to your own benefit or your own cause, it becomes easier to understand when there is something written in JavaScript or HTML, right? So next, yeah, now we talk about DOM. So I have told you everything previously about DOM. How is it working? That example related to 10 cars. There is a small image, the React virtual DOM document object model. So what is actually a DOM? I didn't tell you about what is actually happening inside the DOM. So DOM is, let's say there is a tree, and inside there is a website which is following a tree. Tree means that in the heading section, there is a document, and then there is a HTML, and then there is a head, which will followed by title, and then there is a body, which will followed by, let's say, elements, text, attributes, navbar, and all those stuff. So what happens when you are maintaining a virtual DOM? It becomes easy to re-render everything every time. So what it means that when you are working with normal HTML, CSS, when you change something, let's say h1 tag, you create h1 to h2 or does something different with the alphabets, what happens? The whole page gets reloaded or whole page gets rendered. But with the help of virtual DOM, the whole page will not render. Only that particular segment, or you can say that copy section. After that copy section, it will re-render and everything will get quickly. And memory data structure cache. So what is mean that memory data structure cache? This particular things means that copy section, which I explained to you earlier. That when there is a copy, which means that there is a memory data structure cache which is happening there, and it is maintaining everything which you want to display on the screen. Okay, so till now I have explained you or told you about creating like everything is component based, right? So let me see just a second. Okay, so let me make something here. Let's say this thing, and this thing. Fine. So I'm creating a small page here. So what is it? The whole thing is a normal page. Fine. Let me put it all inside a black. Okay, fine. Now, this is a page. So in here, what are the components actually? So let's say this is a navbar. This is a slide. Yeah, just a second. So in this section, this is a navbar, this is a slide, let's say this is a home page, and this is a footer. So here, whatever I mentioned right now, everything is a small component. What means that I will create a component of navbar, I will create a component of slide, I will create a component of home page, I will create a component of footer. So what happens whenever I want to use that particular component, I will just import or export that. Fine. So if I'm creating a component, then how will I create it? So there are two types. So let me tell you, components are independent and reusable bits of code. They serve the same purpose as JavaScript functions, but works in isolation and return HTML via render function. Now, if if you read it again, you will understand what it is trying to say. What I'm trying to explain that components is nothing else whatever you are using in JavaScript. But there is a slight difference in React components. It's that the components are individual and isolated from rest of the pages. So if you're creating a single navbar component, then it is only a navbar component. It will not be able to provide you slides, or will not be able to provide you footbar. And it returns an function. Which function it is? It is a render function, and with the help of render function, the things are loaded on the screen. So there are two types of component: class-based component, function-based component. The class-based component, you can see it is written that import React, then component from React. It is I have given a syntax like what is happening in a class-based component. So you can see that class React component extend component. What it means that you are rendering a class which is extended from index.html. So what happens that the class component is extended as a component which will render hello world, and it is returning to that index.html where the rendering is happening. And in function-based component, both are same, just the syntax is different. In function-based component is simple a function. I have written there is a arrow-based function, right? Constant functional component, the name of the function, and followed by arrow functions, and returning hello world to the index.html. Now passing props. So in class-based component, the props are passed as a constant name, this dot prop. The this attribute is used, the this keyword is used. So what happens that with the help of this, the constant name, the constant of name will be accessible throughout the whole component of class. This is how we pass props in component-based, class-based component. And in functional-based components, the props are like as a normal what we do in a arrow function. We pass the props in the brackets, and similarly we just get the props dot, let's say, name or ID, whatever the components props you are passing. And if it has a subdivisions, you can access it with the dot attribute. Okay. Next is state. So what is state actually? If I tell you in a very normal or easy way, state is nothing but constant variables. Fine. Which means that when we work on JavaScript, we say int a is equal to 1, or const b is equal to this, or string hello is equal to this and that. Similarly, in React, when we want to create some state, it means React components has a built-in state object. The state object is where you store property values that belongs to a component. When the state object changes, the component re-renders. Let me give you an example. Let's say there is a pen, and that pen has attributes, or you can say properties. So what are the properties? Let's say the pen, the brand name is ABC, the color is blue, and it is in ball pen. So what will happen? We will create a constructor which will have states, and in these states we will create the properties or the attributes, like let's say brand is ABC, color is blue, and the type is ball pen. In this way, we have created an whole state, or you can say a box which will have all the attributes or properties or everything related to that ball pen. Now when we want to access, we will access that particular box, and everything will get or will be accessible from that box. As you can see, here is a small example. You can see that it is written constructor props. Okay, super props, fine. This state will have brand name Ford. So there is returning my car. In the next image, there is written that this dot state dot brand, and here you can see I have used this. Why this? Because it is a class-based component. So I have use this keyword. And state. Why state? Because there is a state which I have mentioned in the constructor. And why brand? Because there is a property, or you can say a section named brand. In this way, we will access to the brand name, which is Ford, mentioned in the constructor. In the next lines, there is a color, then model, then year. Similarly, we can add brand, model, and everything in the constructor area. Okay, moving on. There's one thing I have left right in the below, but how do we change the state? Right. Before answering this particular question, till now, what you are was seeing and understanding is that what we were doing on JavaScript, it is getting easier and easier on React, right? On JavaScript, we create bunch of variables, we create bunch of states, we create bunch of things. But in React, you created a single state and you are getting everything in that particular component only. You are not messing it with different slides or pages. Now, next, let me answer that question. How do we change the state? Because there's a pen ABC, the color is blue, the type is ballpoint. Now, what I did, I removed the refill and put a gel refill. Now the type is gel. So I want to change the state. How will I do that? That is necessary. So we'll use setState. To change a value in the state object, use this .setState method. When a value in the state object changes, the component will re-render, meaning that the output will change according to the new values. setState schedules an update to a component state object. When set changes, the component responds by re-rendering. Now, if I explain you what is set change in a very normal and easy way, it is nothing but, let's say something is already there. Now you will fire the set change. Whatever the things is saved in that particular box will get changed, and the moment it gets changed, everything on the React, the virtual DOM, will get re-rendered and everything will change. Let's say now the slide is blue. Now I will change a set state color blue. What will happen that set color as green. Now what will happen that everything on the slide will change to green without wasting a second. Now there are a few images. You can see that change color. There is a function. See, this is a functional based component, right? This is an arrow function, and it is written this dot set state color blue. So what will happen that there is a function which is changing the color, and when the color is changing, when I'm clicking somewhere, on click this dot change color. So whenever I'm clicking, the event is getting fired. With the help of when the event gets fired, it will call the change color function and the set will be changed. Props and set both contains data, then what is the difference? Now you must be thinking that I was talking about props just few slides ahead when I was discussing differences between the class-based component, the functional-based components. Then why are we talking state here? See, props and state both are variables or data, fine. But the main difference is that the set is limited to that particular component. But properties can be transferred from this component to another component. What I mean that, let's say you are getting some, data from an API, and the API is divided into movies and images. And then further it is divided, the movies is divided into kids and adult movies. So when we are, now there are two components, movies and this images. So in that movie component, we will pass the props, whichever things are coming, and from those props we will collect the movies only. And similarly we'll do the same in the image component. Now when we will get the state, what happens that whatever the movies are defined at that particular component, it will not go outside anywhere. It will stay in that particular component only. This is the difference. Like props get passed to the component similar to function parameters, whereas state is managed within the component similar to variable declared within a function. So you can think it as a scope also, but it is not basically scope, just giving a reference that you can think it of it as in scope. Okay, now a very important thing which if you are going to start with React, you must know that there are life cycles. What I mean that whatever you do, whatever you render, it is going to have a life cycle. It will not be, uh, it is not like it will be there forever or it will end right at the moment. You have to decide when to show and how long to show. So you created components, very nice. But what about you want to make it disappear after some action? Let's say there is a slide. Now, when I'm clicking on a button, I want that slide to vanish. So what will happen? I have to delete that life cycle of that slide. Now, understanding the component's life cycle will enable you to perform certain action when component is created or destroyed. So basically, all React component lifestyle can be split into 4 phases. First is initializing, second is mounting, third is updating, fourth is unmounting. I will explain these phases in the next slide, but for now, just understand what is the important of life cycle. So if I give you a very easy way to understand, then let me think that you are using LinkedIn, right? You click on a profile. Let's say you went to my profile, Shibam Dhar. Now what happens? The page will load all the details related to Shibam Dhar. Now what you do, you click on tutorials link profile, or let's say your friend's profile. So what will happen? My profile is already there. So will it delete my profile, or will it override my profile, or will it just vanishes my profile? This thing in this particular area, the life cycle of that component will be useful, which means that whenever I click on this button, let's say back, the my profile will get unmount. Fine. The last phase, and the tutorial string or your friend's profile will get mount, which means the DOM will understand, okay, I have to mount this thing, and then the DOM will render the main page. So every phase has their methods, and some methods are component will mount, component did mount, and many more. Let me explain you better with the next slide. Here, what you can see, there are life cycles. So I've explained you 4 types of life cycles. First, the initializing. So whatever you put up, the setup, the props or states, you will initialize everything. Next is mounting. What will happen in mount? That component will mount. You created a component. Now you want it to mount it on your website. So component will mount, then rendering will happen, and then component did mount. That mounting is done. Next, you created a profile, you mounted it. Now the profile is not up to the mark. You want to change the color. So what will you do? You will update. Now, while updating, there are 2 parts. Do you want to update in your particular state, or you want to update the whole props? Whatever is it, you must declare it. So first thing first, props or state. Let's say it is in prop. So what will happen? Component will receive props, and then it will ask the user, or it will check whether you want to update or not. Should component update? This is a method. All of the things which are written here, everything is method. So should component update? If it is a true, then move to next part. Component will update. Then component will get rendered, and component got rendered. Similarly, in state also same thing happens. Now, next is unmount. There is a single method in unmount. Component will unmount, which means now you don't want it, just unmount the component. Okay, moving on. Event handling. So I thought this is a very important, easy, as well as you can say a very crucial thing which I should mention in my slides, because event handling. So because when we are working with JavaScript, we understand that whatever we are doing, everything is event based. Let's say you are creating a small project of clock, you are doing you're making a calculator, or you are creating a whole website. Everything you do on JavaScript, that's event based. There is a there is a small there is a small image I have mentioned here. You can see it is a normal JS, right? So what is it? Const button. I have declared a constant which will getting a query selector selector, which means that it is selecting a button from where? From the document, and the query is given as dot button, which means this particular selector will be selected in this button, right? So in this button, what I did, I added an event listener, which will do what? Whenever there is a click, it will render this function of event and will console log hello, right? Fine, easy, nothing tough, nothing tricky. So now what we will do in React? So event handling in React. So we are used to using event handlers in JavaScript, but in React we are using JSS. So what about event handling in React? Well, it is quite similar to normal how we do in HTML, CSS. React events are named using camel case. Let me take out my pencil. Yeah, you can see React events name are used with camel case. What it means, you can see this is a name of React event. Camel case means the components. Let's say if there are two words, the second word will start with a capital. With JSX, you pass a function as the event handler rather than a string. What is happening here? Let me tell you. So there is a function-based component. Fine. There is a rendering which is happening with the help of return. So what is happening? There is a form. You can see there is a form on submit, which means this is what? This is an event listener, right? On submit, what is happening? On submit, I will call this particular function, right? So where is this function? This function is right here. So what is happening? The function name, there is small prop, the E. So what is E? E is whatever you are sending back from this particular area, it is getting stored in particular this thing, E. Fine. E.prevent default console log you clicked submit. So what will happen whenever you click on this form button, this particular function will get fired and the console log will show you clicked the submit. Now, what is prevent default? So what is prevent default? Prevent default is when you work on React.Js or you work on this form area, what happens when you click on submit or click on anywhere, the whole page get re-rendered or refreshed, which means whatever is there on the website or on the page will get deleted or new, like whole new page will come as in a whole refreshed area. So prevent default prevents that refreshing phase and keeps the website at that particular point only without creating any further changes. But whatever is mentioned in the function will happen. Only the page will not get refreshed. Okay. Next, moving on, conditional rendering. Now, conditional rendering is like hearing it as a very easy topic, but let me tell you, it is very crucial because I know it is related to if-else statement only, but on React, there are numerous ways to use conditional rendering. In React, conditional rendering refers to process of delivery elements and components based on contain conditions. There is more than one way to use conditional rendering in React. As with most things in programming, some are better suited than others depending on the program you are trying to solve. Conditional rendering is a term to describe the ability to render different user interfaces markup if a condition is true or false. In React, it allows you to render different elements or components based on a condition. What I mean that it is not that simple like if-else case that if you get A is equal to B or A is equal to 10, you will do this and that. But it is similar but used in a very large or in a very huge way. Okay, like when you click on navbar in a let's say when you minimize the or you get the screen smaller, the navbar gets small, right? In a very responsive manner, right? And when you click on navbar, it opens a menu. So what is happening? There is a conditional rendering. When you click on those, hamburger icon, those 3 lines, when you click on those 3 lines, there is a conditional rendering getting fired, which says that, okay, now it is clicked. Open up the menu. This is the area. Like, I'm just giving you an example. I will tell you more. Just a second. Clear out drawings. Okay. So there are a few examples. Rendering external data from API. Now, earlier I mentioned there is an API. It is giving back videos and images. Now I want videos. I want to send the videos. How? I will use conditional rendering. Showing or hiding elements. The navbar. When I want to show the whole menu, when I click on the hamburger icon, how will I do? Conditional rendering. Toggling applications. Implementing permissions level. Now, if I tell you implementing permission level, the best example is Google authentication. Fine. I'm not saying the authentication is happening with the help of conditional rendering. No. But after the conditional rendering, whatever you are displaying, that is happening with the help of conditional rendering. Means you have authenticated the page. Fine. You got the user. Now you will perform conditional rendering to see whether the user is given or not. If the user is given, you will show the home page. If not, then you will not show the home page. Next, handling authentication and authorization. If else null React elements variable true false ternary application ampersand etc. These are all the examples. So there is a small code I have given. What is happening? It is, as I mentioned, the login, the authentication phase. This is same is happening here. Just a second. Yeah. There is a container. Under that, there is a prop, which is saying prop.user if available, which means if the condition is true, and which means if it is true, then redirect to home page and do all those stuff. Navbar, show your navbar, show the images and everything. Okay. Now, the styling. So what is styling? So styling in React is quite similar to whatever you do on, let's say, on HTML, CSS. There are various ways also, like inline styling. You must be aware of it. Then is CSS style sheet, like creating a different style sheet for the particular file. In addition to there are several other ways which you can use in React. First is style components. I will explain you how. Then JavaScript objects. So let me stop my screen share and let me share the whole screen. Okay, just a second. Okay, so let me go to the first. Okay. Fine. So this is an example which I clicked here from earlier, and it is an example of style sheet. So what is happening here? You can see this is in chat.css, and in here you can see that there must be an class named chat, and I have given all the CSS properties right here. Fine. Now moving on, style components. So in style components, what is happening that you can see this is a component based, and I have imported style from style components, and whatever the styling is happening, like let's say there is container, header and everything, whatever styling is happening, it is all happening in the below. What are the advantages and what are the disadvantages? Advantage is that you will not have to worry about classes in your React application, because what happens that when we work with our HTML, CSS, JavaScript, what we have to think about, like if you are reusing the classes or not. But in this section, you create a component, or you create a style component, and you just mention it in the below, and you just give it a style. Now, what is the disadvantage? It is that it creates the page long and more code of lines, nothing else. Okay. Next is JavaScript objects. Now, what is JavaScript objects? Inline styling inside the particular element or HTML. Style sheet from different style sheet, like creating another sheet for the styling. Style component, creating the styling at the end of the exporting. Now next is style JavaScript objects, which means that whatever styling you are doing, you will do inside the function itself with the help of creating JavaScript objects. Now you can see that here I've created a constant JavaScript check style button, which is happening what? Style is getting included to button style class name. If it is there, then you will put style 0. What is happening? Style 0 is here. See, const style is equal to button primary, and the button primary I have declared already. So what is happening? If you want to, there are several ways. So this is one of the way to give styling to your component or to your everything on your React application. Now we will code a little bit, or I will explain you what is happening and everything. So just give me a second. Let me set it up. Okay. Just give me a second. Okay. So I've created a folder named student dev. I will open this folder in VS Code, or if you are using Atom or anything, just go with it. No worries. Okay. Fine. I have this VS Code. It is opened properly. Now what I'll do, I will open this in integrated terminal. Fine. So from now on, we will understand how to create a React application from scratch. So first of all, what we do, we need to write this particular code, npx create React app. If you want to create another folder inside the this folder, then you write the name of the new folder. And if you don't want to create a separate folder, just put a full stop. Now what we'll do, whatever the library related to React.js is stored on open source, it will pull all the data here. Fine. So it will take a few time. Till that moment, let me explain you the website of the React and everything related to React. Just give me a second. See, as you can see, it is written creating new file, and see the package is getting delivered and all the stuffs are happening. So let me share my another screen. Just give me a moment. Okay. 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 So this is the main website of React, and yeah, so this is the main website of React. You can get everything related to React. You can see here that how the simple component, what is stateful component application, everything related to this. There are tutorials, and you can see there is a huge community of React, because see, when it is an open source, there are many people, many people working on it. So wherever you get a doubt, you can post it here. There are teams, there are people working on it. There are other students who will get back to you, help you, and just this is a wonderful place because it's an open source. So moving on, the next thing is that what I will use in the, just a second. will be using Material UI for this. Let me open up Material UI. If you have worked with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, you must be familiar with Bootstrap. So what is a Material UI? It is a React component for faster and easier web development built on your design team, or start with Material Design. Basically, it is a library, fine. Like Bootstrap, it is also a library which helps you to make beautiful components and everything related to this. Fine. This we will be using. And what else? What else? And how to use Material UI? It is very simple. Just click here. Whatever you want. You want components? Click here. You want box? Click here. You want grid? Click here. So I will be explaining you all of this in just a minute. Just waiting for the files to get downloaded. It takes time at first, but when it gets darker, I will be starting soon. Just give me a few minutes. Okay, so I think yes. So let me see what is happening. So as you can see, it is now doing that 193 volume. These all files are downloaded, and I think Git repository, everything will be there. Just a second. Now removing templates. As you can see that, basic template of React is already installed. And when you see that happy hacking is there, now it is ready. So let me start first, npm start. So now what will happen, that whatever you got from the open source library of React.Js, everything is on your system. Now you want to start. So what that you quote npm start. Now it will open up a local host. It will take a few minutes. Just be with me, and then we will go on like how we will clean the code. We will put up the code. We'll use style components, and I will be not showing the CSS part because this is not basically related to CSS, but everything will be there. So, okay, see, now it is opening. Just wait for a few minutes. While we are here, let me just move on. Let me just tell you more about what we will be seeing and what are other things which can be used. So yes, we'll be using Material UI. Then we will be using style components. One more wonderful thing about React is that, let's say if you want to use some React icon, you want to use some icons. So what you do, you basically go to Font Awesome and import and all those stuff, right? But in here you can get everything related to React just importing from a single site or single site. Let me tell you, there is this. This website, on this website, just search for it. If you search, let's say see, the Material UI is there. So basically everything, whatever you want, you can see that how many are weekly downloads and how to install with npm, with yarn and everything. And how, like you can see that collaboration is doing, and last published is 3 days ago. So everything, when as I told you earlier, the community is big, everyone is like giving their own contributions. So there are very less chances, like less than 95%, less than 95% chances that there's a small mistake or somewhere you get stuck. So yeah, so it is loaded. Now you can see our local host is online. Very good. Now we will do some clearing in the code. Let me open up my code now. So how to clear up few things. First of all, let's go to src source file. In here, we don't want setup. We don't want report, we don't want logo, we don't want test. Just delete them. Fine. Fine. Okay. Now it is saying report is not available. Okay, fine. So first of all, go to index.js. Report is not needed. Remove it. Fine. Anything else? Report is not there. Remove it. Okay, fine. Anything else? Logo. Okay, logo. Where is logo? On app.js. Logo is not there. Remove it. Now let's see what are the logo is not defined. Okay, so now here everything after div from header to header, just delete that. Okay, fine. Let's see what is happening on our website. See, it is all blank, right? Let me go now. If I change on my code, let's say hello world, what happens? See, the hello world is rendered here. Like you can see that how fast it is, right? Like you just do something and it just get popped up in your website. Okay, so let me open up my code again. Fine. So now we will work on it. Just give me a second. Let me set it up. Just a second. I hope you are able to see my code now. And we'll start with cleaning. We have done few cleaning stuff. Now for the rest thing, let me do this thing as index.css. The margin is given. App.css, just remove everything. Fine. Okay. Now I will add some CSS related to this thing. Let me see what should I add. Let me add box sizing. Fine. Now in app.css, what I will do, let's create a folder component. Fine. And inside this component, I want a new file. I want a navbar. Okay. And when you are creating a component, make sure you start with a capital. Navbar.js. Fine. Navbar is there. Awesome. Now I want, let's say what I want. I want banner.js. Fine. Now what I want, cards. Let's see, let me new file, cards. Yes. Fine. Okay. So now we are in app.css. Fine. Is there anything else I need to do? No. Okay. Now that we are in app.js, now I will render everything whichever is there in the other components. Okay. So let me open up my navbar. I want this to be in functional base. I have written RFCE, the snippet which I mentioned earlier. Put it here. Now I will say navbar. Now let me see, in navbar you are exporting the navbar. Right now I want to import here. Now you can see it is imported here. And if I share my screen of application, you can see the navbar is written here. So I will do it in a very smooth way and you will understand what is happening. See, just now you saw, na, the navbar is getting rendered. Similarly, everything will get rendered. No need to worry. So let me first work with navbar only. Now let me open up another thing. I will do what? I will install style component, npm I or installed styled dash components. Okay, it will take few seconds, I guess. Then we will move ahead with this, and this is will be very easy. And we will be using a image. So I have this folder, and let me just copy here. So there is an image folder which I have created earlier. Now this will see, now it is done. Fine. Now we can import. So what we will be importing? We will be importing style from where? Style components. See, it is coming here. Now let me just get my code, and I will explain you everything in a very quick way and very easy way. So what is happening here? Let me open up my console log. So there is a nav, there is a logo which is getting source from image file. There is a nav menu, and there is an a tag JSX. There is a span, and then I'm just copying and pasting. But there are errors. What is error? The keyword is, each search for the keyword is error. So what I'll do, I will declare the style components. Const, let me show one for you. The name is nav. Nav is equal to style dot. Now what type of component I want? I want a div. If you want a, just type a. If you want a button, just type button. If you want an image, just type image. So I will just type div. Now let's see if one, yeah, see, now there are two. So similarly, let me just get the code. It is very easy. And the CSS part, this is not related to CSS part, this session. So I will just put up the CSS right away. Now see, there are no errors. So what is happening in our website? Let me check. See, this is our website. There's a smooth navbar is there, and whenever I'm clicking refresh, it is just in the second of there is it, and you can see there are some animations and everything is just like. Okay, so now moving on to other components which we have made. So what we should do, let's start with banner. Now for the banner, what I want is that I'll create a banner.css too. Oh, what is happening? Cool. Fine. Let me close up the navbar. The navbar is done. Let me close up the index. The index is done. Let me close up the app. No, the app is not done. So let me write RFCE. Same way. Okay. Just a second. Now inside banner, what I want. So inside banner, I have this code. Let me get it to you. I will explain you. So what I want is that I want a header, and inside that header, I want a image with the style. Now see what is happening. There is a header, simple way. Now there is a component of inline, that style, inline styling. Remember, this is what happens. Style, bracket. So with two brackets, we make it as a simple as JavaScript. So in this JavaScript, the properties, you can see that background size, the size we avoid using hyphen, and instead we use size. Capital S. So background position is centered background. URL is this. What is the error? Is defined, but it's not getting here. Oh yeah, I forgot to import. Okay. Now let me do some CSS here. Let me get the CSS. Fine. So in this way, you will be able to work with banner and everything which you are doing. So this is all the basic things what I'm trying to get to you, and other things. Or and if you want any reference, you can go to my GitHub account and you can find at Shibam, and everything is there. And yeah, so I think yes, it is done. Let me just check anything else is required or not. So there is a CSS, and here I've done a fade button, and everything is there. And in the now the CSS is getting imported from the banner.css to the banner.js. Let me show you the website, what it is happening now. So this is the website, what is done till now. So what is happening? The banner.component is getting rendered, the navbar is getting rendered. Similarly, you can, let me just get it done quickly. Now it moves to card, and in card what we will do, in card we have a card.css, right? In card.js I want the code something like I've let's move to PowerShell. Just okay, so let me skip this part. Okay, done. So yes, let me show you my screen. So up till now, these all things are done with the help of React.js. So I want you to understand and do it with the help of Material UI also and other factors, because there are many other things. So and one more thing I will last thing of this session I will explain to you is that while doing the code, there is a small CSS thing which I've used that is called BEM. So try to use BEM convention, which is like the class name here is banner, then the banner dash dash fade button, and this is called BEM function, BEM rule. So try to do this, and with this, yes, I think that should summarize whatever I wanted to explain to you all guys. And yes, thank you. And with this, I come to the end, and I hope with this session you are aware of what is the meaning of React and how React is done and everything related to React. Just in case if you have any questions, just go to online, go to their community page, type it. And still, if you want to get some reference to projects and all, you can always visit my GitHub profile and my websites and my even social handles. Thank you. For the I guess the tutorials link will be sharing this too also. But for my side, let me show you where you can find me. So let me open up my website. Okay. So for GitHub, you can always go to github.com and just type this name Shibam17. You can find numerous. There are 53 repositories which is full of web development only, nothing else. And if you want to ping me up, yes, I am available on Twitter. You can find me on Twitter as TWF and the rate underscore the web freak, and on LinkedIn also. So yes, on LinkedIn, my simple name Shibam Dhar. You can find me there. Yes, this is my feed. So looking forward to it.